Welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses, the home of Leicester City talk on YouTube. Fan debates, live watch-alongs, post-match reactions, and all the Foxes banter you could ask for. Subscribe now and see the game through Blue Tinted Glasses.
Just into race clear. He's got Jamie Vardy with him. Jamie Vardy sets off. Jamie Vardy! Ball back here for Darwin. Oh, he scored! An absolute belter! That is trademark Abdul Darwin.
This one into the box. Nugent over the top. Oh, what a goal! David Nugent's just scored a beauty. He's made Forest look like fools.
Premier League champions 2016. The amazing Leicester City.
Good evening and welcome back to Blue Tinted Glasses, and here we are with another emergency stream. And yeah, if you've been living under a rock, of course, Leicester City have now officially confirmed and announced their board changes, their leadership, what have they called it? Evolved leadership structure is what they've called it. So we're going to talk all about that. Please get your comments in and let us know what you think to it all. Quite a lot to talk about. But yeah, before we get into it, Duck, what's going on, mate? How are you?
Doing well, mate. Doing well. Football's not been going well for me, though. Leicester Sagas, Copenhagen are having the worst season I can remember in my lifetime as well. So it's not going well in the sporting world, but IRL, I'm doing quite good.
Good stuff. And Neil, what's going on with you, mate? How's things?
Yeah, all right. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the Leicester, because a lot of people here, because everyone's interested to see what's going on.
Absolutely. Okay, so here we go. Announced today, Leicester, Chelsea. Leicester City confirm evolved leadership structure. So, Leicester City today announces an evolved senior leadership structure designed to provide clarity of responsibility, strengthen governance, and support our long-term development both on and off the pitch. The new structure introduced defined executive leadership for our football and business operations, recognising the expertise, pace and prioritisation required in each area, aligned behind a single strategic vision to re-establish Leicester City as a sustainable, aspirational Premier League football club. So, leading the club's business operation, Kevin Davies has been appointed to the role of Chief Exec Officer, providing executive leadership of the club's corporate affairs, ensuring strong governance, long-term financial resilience and the operational platform required to support a sustained sporting ambition. So there we go. He moves into the new CEO role, replacing Susan Whelan 4 months later. We'll talk about the timing though soon. Leading the club's football operation, John Rudkin has been appointed to the role of Chief Football Officer, providing executive leadership of all football matters, ensuring long-term sporting alignment, strategic squad development, and the high-performance environment required to deliver sustained competitive success. Both Kevin and John will report to the club's board of directors, made up of Chairman Top and the other two, is all I'll say instead of trying to pronounce them, who will continue to provide strategic oversight and long-term direction for the club. Now, just before we talk about it all, just one more thing to read. As we've known for quite a while now, further strengthening the football operation and reporting to the CFO, which is John Rudkin, James McCarron will join us as sporting director at the end of March, arriving from City Football Group, where he currently serves as global director of player development. James will support and help shape the club's player recruitment and identification strategy, working closely with Martin Glover. In close alignment with the technical coaching staff, James will lead the first team performance departments, including data analysis and sports science, and oversee the professional development phase of the academy pathway to ensure cohesion across the football programme. There's obviously the commercial director as well, and Monica, also known as, Cameron Thip, also known as Monica, will continue in her MD role. And there we go. We'll talk about the rest later. So let's break it down. Hello to Steve as well. Let's break it down. And Neil, let me come to you first, mate. What are your thoughts, I suppose, off the bat when the news broke and you read all of this? What was the first thing that came to your mind?
It's marking your own homework and giving yourself an A. That's honestly how it felt like to me. Because I think the one that is just the biggest piss take is read out that bit against Rudkin again. That's why I had to play those sound effects. It's just like, I cannot believe that like someone who's been here for like, you brought up a graphic between you, me and Andreas, the pre-stream of like King Power before Vichai and afterwards. And to be responsible for that, and you've essentially got promoted. Now, you could say, oh, is it just like a token promotion? But that seems to me that it's not. I mean, Chief, you put Chief in someone's title, that's, head honcho. He's won the war. So I don't know. That for me makes me feel very disappointed. And I personally think that all you're going to really see is that they've just brought in some fool guys. So if the people at the top literally fuck up, they've got someone to blame. We'll have to see. So that's how I interpret it. I would love to be proven different, but I don't think so. And just quickly before the others give their opinion, I mean, for me, I want to see if he is a chief football officer. Do you know what? I feel the chief football officer should be going on the fan channels to explain the vision and the strategy for the club, because that's what it seems to imply in the job title there. It's what people from other clubs do. Do you think he'll do it? Because I don't.
No. Well, we will bring up the example you're talking about soon. But Doc, let me come to you next, mate. Obviously, the most exciting appointment out of those that we looked at was the sporting director. But the main bit of information in that article was the confirmation, Doc, that he will be reporting to the new chief footballing officer, the highest level of football at the club, John Rudkin.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that surprises many people, right? That's the choice that was made. I think when we talked about it in the summer, one of the options I believe I recommended was, if you're not willing to get rid of yourself in your own incompetence, at least surround yourself by competence. And it's not the preferred way, I think, with the way King Power have handled this season as well. I was very much on the side of, should just sell up, man. Cut your losses and save the bit of legacy you have left and allow someone new to come in. But it's clear that's not happening. And with them now changing the structure, which is at the very least, in my own opinion, the second best option, way less better than just getting rid of King Power as a whole. But I have to accept that's now the reality, and I'll give the new guys a chance. I hope that this new CFO title means that John Rudkin will be moving further away from day-to-day action and stuff like recruitment and strategy and all the nice things they said about him is actually to James Macaron. But apparently, with how they phrased this announcement at the very least, it seems like he will still be very much involved in the overarching planning of Leicester. And that's when you then think, how much planning have you seen John Rudkin do for Leicester in the past 7 years? Nothing, or basically since Vichai passed, nothing. So I'm not happy with John Rudkin sticking around. It doesn't surprise me though, and I really hope that this rebuild structure and addition of a sporting director means that you'll see a change in strategy, approach, and long-term planning for Leicester. But you can only hope, and they need time, and I'm willing to give it that time. But it's a good change. But it's not what would be best for the club. It's just King Power selling.
Just before I come to Steve, I mean, the comment here from Paul about meeting Anil on the train. Anil, was this the same train as you? If so, Enzo was on it. Enzo Maresca was on the train with you.
Wow, that is oh my God. So Anil Sachs, can't believe it, on the same train as Enzo Maresca, hero, and let the whole team down. Sorry, lads.
That's Luke's wet dream, being on the same train as Enzo Maresca. Steve, over to you, mate. I mean, Doc just said there, he's not happy that John Rudkin's still around. He's not only still around, Steve, it is now confirmed. It is a promotion, and he is now overseeing everything regarding the football matters.
Yeah, so I've just sent you a video, if you can pull that up for me. This is exactly how I feel and a lot of Leicester fans feel in regards to top making a decision at this football club when it comes to John Rudkin. It's a genuine outrage, the fact that he's still got a job at this football club.
This one, okay, let me play it.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down. if you show any weakness,
What is that
if you
accent, by the way?
apologise or try to explain yourself, they'll see it as weakness, they'll smell blood, and down you'll fucking go.
There we go. That was Scottish, Doc. There you go.
Scottish, yeah.
It did kind of seem slightly Swedish as well, actually, but no. But no, I know go on, Steve. I mean, I know how you feel. It is like they've just doubled down. Like they're doubling down. John Rodkin isn't the problem. Let's promote him.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not like anything happened at the weekend when there was a mass amount of people walking towards the stadium calling for his resignation and certain people to sell the club. If anything, I think they've gone, you know what? They must be happy with what we're doing. So let's give them a promotion. Let's promote the guy that's been at the club for 15 years and signed off in the accounts the last 3 years of like the biggest losses this football club has ever had. And let's give him a promotion as well. And we'll bring in a technical director who, I'll give him the chance to fail in his own right, I imagine, because we don't set people up to progress here, do we? We set people up to fail. So we'll give him that opportunity to do it himself. I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on. Honestly, this football club, it will leave no stone unturned in regards to being embarrassed by itself. And to give John Rodkin a promotion to oversee the entirety of the football organisation at Leicester City, it's baffling. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna bring this up now. So we'll talk about the technical director. The
sporting director,
James.
Right?
Well, yeah, sporting. Yeah, sporting technical, same thing really. But yeah, sporting director. And he was obviously at the KP on the weekend. Sat there, you can see him behind Enzo Maresca. So although the club have confirmed he's not starting his job until the end of the month, he obviously has been to a couple of games. He will be in contact with them and he'll be speaking with them, of course, planning for the future. Now, I'm going to just say, I think there's two sides to this, so I'll get your thoughts on it, Anil. But obviously, people are angry, and I think, there is obviously a few bits of information that are coming out that suggest, a few worrying bits of information about kind of his history and one of his previous roles at Lommel, which is obviously part of the City Group, where I believe he was the technical director there or sporting director there.
Yeah, same role, yeah, sporting director.
So the club are currently suffering a net loss of €20.5 million after 3.5 years of mismanagement by James McCarron. I don't understand any of it. What he means by any of this is that he's taken over at Leicester City. On the other side of it as well, Anil, we know these things, even with John Rodkin, they're not one-dimensional. Like, it's not like there is only one person to blame for all of this. I mean, the City Group are going to spend a lot of money, and if things don't go very well on the pitch, then obviously you're going to make a loss. But I would still say, Anil, it is still an encouraging appointment for me, because he is clearly very highly rated in the game. Otherwise, I believe he is the highest possible level of like football below the overall sporting director of the City Group, right? He's really high up, the leader of like player development, all of that. So I don't think it's right for us to write him off just yet, Anil. I think it could end up being a good appointment.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think, the proof will be in the pudding. He's the one that maybe will come on the fan channels, because to be fair, I think it was either you or Duck found that video where he did sit down and started talking about player recruitment and strategy for Lommel. So if he's going to do that, maybe he's been groomed to actually take over that position overall. That, I think, is the best case scenario that you could hope for, and that we're in some sort of transition period, because you can't just give that responsibility to someone who's got no experience of Leicester right away. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. I don't believe it, but it's possible. It could happen. I think with Man City, and that club in particular, is a bit more complex, because the way that they operate is they use teams like Lommel to basically sign a lot of like promising youngsters. They develop them there, and then if they're good, they get circulated around the rest of the City Group. If not, they get sold on. Like, do you know Vinny Souza, who used to play for Sheffield United? I don't know if he still plays for them, but I know that he came from Lommel. There's a few other players that, like, they do occasionally produce some fairly decent talent, and it is used to sort of make profits. A bit sort of like Chelsea before Bluco came over, the way that they were able to like make loads of money from their academy. We'll have to see. I think, look, coming from the City Group, I think realistically, where else are you going to get someone with that sort of expertise, right? He's worked at a big organization that shares knowledge with one another. They have a global footprint. Like, these days, they even have clubs in South America, all around the world. So that is promising. We don't know. You and I were talking sort of, on text earlier, and I was talking about Ben Napper from Norwich. And, so for those of you who don't know, he's a sporting director for Norwich City. Now, at the start of the season, he was getting absolute pelters. They're like, what is this guy doing? He signed all these players that look crap. We've brought in this new manager, Liam Manning, where it looked like we're going down to League One. Does this sound familiar, by the way? And, they basically wanted him out. There were protests about wanting this particular guy out. But the difference is this guy has the balls. He went on several channels, several Norwich fan channels, as well as the official channel. He explained what was going on, what they were going to do. They've brought in Philip Clement, and you might remember on a weekend we got absolutely played off the park by his team, despite the fact that they had numerous injuries. I don't know about you, but what made me laugh is after 60 minutes, they took off Paris Ngoma, who was the best player on the pitch, and it was still 0-0. I was like, are these guys just like, flexing on us? They're taking clearly the best player off the pitch and they still comfortably won easily. We never even touched them. So
I was going to bring it up, Anil. I'll bring up a snippet here. So this is obviously what we're talking about. I mean, we've spoken about it a lot before. We also speak about another example where Angus Kinnear, Leeds United former CEO, used to go on the Square Ball podcast once a season and talk about all the good things. This is just, there is more. I've just found this little segment of it, but this is obviously when he goes on there. And by the way, the guy on the left here, one of the hosts of the podcast, I mean, he is scathing all the time about Ben Napper, who is the guy on the far right there. And obviously he still came on. Whereas if it was Leicester City, the reason that, Leicester City would never engage with a channel like ours or other channels like Big Strong Leicester Boys and stuff like that, because they're so scathing at times about the leadership.
Well, Locks, let's see, because that's it. This guy here, I want to see the same thing, you and them talking to you. If the club don't do it, they can get fucked, pardon my language. Right? If they really want to turn the corner, that's what they need to do. Right? I'm different, right? I can accept, like this guy here, that your strategy could go wrong. Right? That is possible. You have the best laid plans of mice and men can go awry. But for me, what is unacceptable is to treat the fan base like customers and not even take them along with the journey and just disrespect them. That for me is my biggest issue with King Power. So that's why, to be honest with you, it should be Rudkin. Right, Topper's actually come out fair enough and spoken to Owen. Right, Rudkin hasn't done an interview in like 10 years. For me, that is embarrassment for someone who's supposedly chief football officer. But all right, he's going to get his crony to do it. But then I want to see his crony do it instead. So that's my big thing. But anyway, play the clip, because as I say, this is accountability. King Power do not have accountability. So this guy on the right here, look at his facial expression here. I mean, he's shitting himself. Right, he knows he's got to go here and get pelted for an hour, pretty much. Right, but that is taking it like a man. That's what you got to do in a role like this for me.
Well, you're going to hear now some accountability. So listen to this.
Probably underserved in certain areas. You obviously oversee recruitment, and Liam obviously had a say in that too. But
did he? We don't know that.
Yeah, every head coach always would.
Right, okay.
We would never.
But that was a concerning comment for me, where it was like, if the head coach that you have brought in can't rely on his players, something has gone wrong somewhere, and that may well just be the players, or is it a wider recruitment issue?
Yeah, look, we've leaned hard into a strategy, right, where we're signing young players from overseas that have got potential, but we know are not going to be finished articles right now. And yeah, we've leaned into that really aggressively. Have I underestimated how difficult it is to integrate that number of players of that type of profile? Maybe. But, the reality is, I think all of our players are a long way away from their best versions of themselves right now, even senior players and experienced players. So I don't think it's necessarily a question of just young players, new players that have been underperforming. I think everybody has.
Them, yeah.
So, and what does that come down to? I mean, how long do you persist with the strategy before you go, you know what, this isn't working, we need to change it? Because I'm starting to look at the league table, I'm going, this is not looking good. And, Ante Cianats, I know, out for the season, Mate Jurisic and Mank Forson, they're either injured or they haven't performed. And I'm just going, how long do you persist with the strategy before it's untenable?
Yeah, look, that's the price on the ticket with young players. And Ante, I think, is a good example. I don't agree he hasn't performed. His first season was, I think, 12 goal involvements. In his debut season as a 20-year-old, or 21, I think he was 21 in the December. It was one of the best outputs for a player of his age in the whole league.
In terms of this season?
Yeah, I agree
this season. But that's the nature of player development. It's never just a linear progression of you know, they progress season on season, and then it just doesn't work like that. And yeah, we have a lot of players that are in that kind of bucket, if you like, and ultimately too many of them have, like you said, have either been unavailable. Typically, it's been that.
So there's an example where he's openly admitting, look, we have leaned heavily into young players from abroad, and he said himself, I underestimated like what it takes to kind of integrate those players, you know, and that's been one of our problems this season. And you know, he also kind of, you know, I know it's kind of common sense, but he confirmed there that of course the manager has a lot to say. These are just things, Doc, I'll come to you. These are just things, mate, that you can kind of guess at, and we guess at every week when we do a show and we talk about something relating to recruitment or Rudkin or what might be going wrong. We guess all the time, but now you've got, in this instance, the sporting director of the said club going on a podcast, on a fan channel, and answering the hard questions and kind of admitting mistakes and kind of talking about what's gone wrong. There's, again, I wasn't able to find it in the short time I had, but there are, in that same interview, bits where they say to him, I don't think you're doing a good job, right? And he takes it and he defends himself. And, you know, even if Rudkin continues performing badly, Doc, he would be respected a hell of a lot more if he faced up to the music.
I think for me as well, it's especially how I've said recently, I feel like we are in a standstill, right? We don't know the strategy, what's the plan to get us out of the mess we're in. We feel very much like we're just, you know, trying to have to guess what the club is doing because they don't communicate it. Even if Rudkin came out and you know, at the very least had a plan, we might disagree with what they thought or how they wanted to act, but at the very least you could have had you know, a basic understanding of the thought process behind what Leicester are doing. And the thing is, when we don't have that, it just furthers the disconnect between the fans and the club, because we have absolutely zero clue of why they are running around like headless chickens and not doing anything, you could say. Or for example, if at the start of the window, your sporting director comes out and says, we are in this financial pinch, we'll only have you know, the opportunity to look at the loan market, then we understand it. Instead of, you know, having to go 2-3 months of silence and then on deadline day signing 3 players on loan out of nowhere. Like, if we have the situation laid out in front of us, we can understand, right? It shouldn't be up to us on the fan channel to sit and analyze the financial to try and figure out if we have any headroom. And obviously, they don't have to disclose all the nitty-gritty details, but to give us a general idea of the situation we're in. If the sport director comes out and says, as you guys might have realized, because we're getting points deducted for spending too much money in the past, we don't have that much money to spend, and that obviously impacts our strategy. So we're trying to look at markets of free transfers or loan signings or whatnot, right? But they've never said that. We have to try and read between the lines of the actions the club is doing, because there is no one taking this accountability, laying out the strategy or explaining the thought process, so we can either disagree or agree with the direction the club is heading in.
Yeah, Steve, I mean, same thing to you, mate. I mean, you know, the fact he's been promoted, look, I think one of the, I suppose, like Anil said, the parts of the job, I suppose, with the sporting director a lot of the time is the sporting director tends to speak to the fans, whether it's interviews with just the club or external things like we've just seen. So there's a chance that they are going to get him to do that, not necessarily with fan channels, because I still don't think they'll ever do it with fan channels under this ownership, but more media, I suppose, more media interviews and things like that, and media appearances. But at the end of the day, do you think that does mean he is just the fall guy, Steve? Because it feels to, you know, I know Anil said it feels like he is just going to be the fall guy, James McCarron. That, like, if things go wrong, it's not Rudkin. It's never Rudkin. It's never Rudkin's fault. It's the sporting director we brought in. He's crap. We're going to sack him and bring a new one in.
Well, it's easier to sack him than it would be to sack Rudkin, wouldn't it? Because then you're admitting that you've made a mistake with this person that you've sat with for as many years as they had. I think that's probably the case. But the chances are he probably won't come out and speak to the fans as much. He'll speak to the FAB, which is the framework for consultant for the fans, which we don't know anything that happens. It's all NDA'd anyway, so pointless. You'll get the minutes that'll be heavily edited. He might speak to people in the media that off the record, but I don't think you'll see much from him really, in all honesty. And why would he? Why would first of all, why would John Rudkin come on these sort of shows? Because that means accepting accountability for the role and the job that he's done, because he's going to be asked hard questions. And then the new guy, You know, if he's got anything about him, he will do. But I just don't think they will, because the club don't want to have these conversations with the fans. Because if you have him come out and say, yeah, it's not been good enough. You know, it's terrible that we've been relegated to League One. It's because of this, this, and this. Before I was here, but it was because of this. That's again accepting that they've made mistakes. Do you think Top's going to want that? Because that'll be filtered through to Thailand, and it'll be embarrassing for him over there, and that's all he really cares about at this point. So, yeah, I don't see it happening, and I don't think that we will see any accountability still, even with this new person.
What I really want to add to that as well is, I don't know about the rights holders in terms of, you know, showing the games or anything, and maybe it's different in the championships, but like say in Denmark, the right holders to showing the game, they also have the right to just call on, you know, the sporting director or, you know, people high up in the hierarchy, maybe not the board members, but people higher up in the hierarchy of clubs, and talk with them. It's not unusual when you're about to watch a game in the Danish Superliga, you see the sporting director of one of the local clubs coming on the show, and he's obligated to do so when they request him. Like, is that not a thing in England where, you know, they can just... But they are paying them. Like, surely that should be something they would force into the contracts, because it's television we want to watch, right? If Sky Sports does an interview with John Rutkin for 5 minutes because they have it in that contract with the championship, they can force these higher-ups to come down and speak them out. Like, you know...
It's not only managers and players are required. Only managers and players are
should
required.
renegotiate the contract then, right? Get people from the higher-ups, even sporting directors, CFOs.
But I don't think anyone would agree to it. I don't think anyone would agree to it, Doc. Like,
but they would if Sky Sports, if Sky Sports really wanted to, they could force it,
that's
because
not going to
otherwise
happen.
just drop out. But I guess they won't.
Good point, but it ain't going to happen. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to just bring this up here as well. This was in the article, but we remain committed to greater transparency and levels of engagement with our supporters as part of our vision, and look forward to introducing Kevin and John in the appropriate settings during the coming weeks. Appropriate settings means the NDA-covered FAB meetings, I imagine.
Maybe
the
a show
program.
club interview?
Or the program, yeah. But the fact that it's an appropriate
like a short club
settings...
interview or something, no?
Maybe, but look at Dan Bates' interview with Top. You know,
but even that would be better than just showing up to the FAB
it wouldn't
meeting,
be, in
right?
my
It's
opinion.
baby
They can
steps.
fuck
It's baby
that.
steps.
They can get fucked.
I think the outrage, if that happened, if it was somebody if it was club controlled, the outrage from the fans would just be too much. So why would they bother?
But that's what I think it will be, Anil. I think it will be, okay, we're going to send John Rudkin to the FAB meeting, which I think he has been to before a few times, but they're going to send John Rudkin to an FAB to introduce him as the new chief footballing officer. Oh, by the way, everyone, though, you've got to sign these NDAs. You can't talk about anything we're talking about here, but, you know.
Well, that is probably going to happen, but what I encourage is anyone who's involved in that is to call them out on the bullshit. Like, we need to be hammering this home every stream, pretty much, Locks. Right? Until they come on this channel, I'll say it: King Power are fucking cowards. They are. We're in the bottom 3 of the championship, right? There's just been a massive, well, I wouldn't say massive, it's pretty pitiful in my opinion, but there was a protest outside the ground asking them to go. What's their response to this? If they haven't got the time or decency to speak to the biggest fan channel, not just us, the other channels as well, then what are they doing? They need to come and do it. So all the other clubs are doing it, right? At the end of this season, there is a very real possibility that a team 10 years ago who were in non-league are going to be above us and we're going to be in League One. That is simply unacceptable. That is mismanagement on a scale that has not been seen in football for a very, very long time. So,
did you see something like there could be only 3 divisions between Oz and Harbour Town or something like that? Like,
nice place,
3
Market Harbour,
divisions.
just saying.
It's lovely, but I don't want to be in the fucking same league as them, that's for sure.
But with the FAB itself, like, it's, as Darren said, like, you know, they are the least representative group of fans. Well, the funny thing is, even with Fox's Trust board members, the people that are assigned to that role as the FAB, none of that information gets passed to us as the trust. We don't get told anything. It's all NDA'd, you know, and you'd have thought that maybe there'd be some groups that they tell little bits of information to, but we don't get anything. So whatever happens there, unless you're there in the room, nothing gets told. You know, we know that people met with Top before the Oxford game. No information came out from it. So, yeah, it's genuinely, it's ridiculous, the whole situation, because they should be there to relate information to the fan base. That's what it's there for, but we're not hearing anything. Sorry.
And you know what the maddest part is, Doc? Let me just mention one more thing on the communication and the fact that some sporting directors go on fan channels and stuff like that, and podcasts. It's that if they agreed, I mean, Luke wouldn't be on it. Luke wouldn't do what I'm about to say, but I'm saying if they agreed, like, it would be respectful debate. It would be respectful. But instead, you've got us, like Anil next to me now, saying get fucked because they won't do it. But if they actually did, then we would be more open-minded. We would be more, ask serious questions that we want to know. We wouldn't tell them to get fucked. We would be respectful, but that doesn't happen.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it would be a civil dialogue. No reason about it. Obviously, it would be hard in the question in terms of maybe pressing on some issues that have been pressing for us fans for ages now, in terms of maybe the financial management, the direction the club is heading, strategy, and all of these things. But it would very much be civil. They wouldn't be called a twat to their face. Of course not. And maybe after they spoke to a fan channel for an hour or so, maybe they wouldn't be called twats at all, because all of a sudden you have an understanding of why Leicester are doing what they're doing. It's very common. That's something I've yelled about for more than a year now, right? Like when the sporting director, anyone in Denmark, they speak to fan media. They speak to the idiots or whatever Leicester want to view us as, because we are angry with how the way the club is run. They speak with them. They speak with them regularly. They disagree with them. They have discussions about different topics and maybe see things differently. But you can listen to that podcast, and it's regularly, and it's with all fan media. All the clubs does this. It's the culture there. And obviously it seems to be rising in popularity in England as well with clubs like Norwich, but it just doesn't coincide with the culture that a Thailand-owned company, or, the Thailand way of doing things, right? It's the cultural difference there that I think is really making Leicester this dark space where no communication gets out. As Steve said before, it's ludicrous with the NDAs, because information needs to be passed along to the fans in some way, and even through the appropriate sources, it then gets stopped immediately. What's the point of a board being told, like 10 people being told the information, if that can't then be passed on to the fans from that point? It's useless. It's genuinely useless communication then, and it's shocking. But they should come on blue tinted glasses, go on Chris's show or whatnot, and it would be brilliant for any Leicester fan to watch that content. Anyone of importance at Leicester would step out. But King Power, they don't have the balls to be pressed on the questions. And, it would not be turning into a yelling match. It would be a civil discussion. But Leicester City can't
I can see me getting banned from this stream if it ever happens, but it's a price I'm willing to take. Put on the serious people.
The thing is, though, sorry,
go on.
like I'd understand if it was a publicly traded company, right? If we're on the stock exchange, you wouldn't expect your CEO to come out of the conversation because it's going to tank.
Yeah, then it would
the
be
stock,
obligated to.
Yeah, but they're privately run. There is a vast majority of fans that don't want them involved at the football club anymore. If you're looking to make changes, talk to the fans. Don't just ignore them, because you're never going to repair that relationship if you don't speak to the fans directly. And having, club run media give you interviews, it means nothing to us, because you don't hear any. It's all we're all so desensitized to it all that you're cleaning it down. But yeah, it's ridiculous. It really is. Come on these channels, speak to us. We're not going to tell you to fuck off or call you a CUNT or anything like that. We'll have legitimate debates, because why would we want to shout and scream at you? That helps nobody.
Steve, to be fair, that is maybe the reason why they have gone for a sporting director. Like I said, that's the best case scenario I could think of it, because maybe they are like, look, if we actually just go and put on, John Rudkin, he's going to get taken to the cleaners. There's no amount of anything you'll be able to do that's going to fix it.
Build up,
but
right?
if they put on James O'Carron, who we don't know anything about, and we speak to him first couple of times, you're going to be like, well, look, it's not his fault that the club's a complete mess right now.
And what can you realistically say on, the transfer window of 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we all want to know what his favourite sandwich is, right? That's all what we want to know.
We want to know how many cream eggs he can put up his bum.
Yes, perfect.
That's a Fox's Talk reference. That's a Fox's Talk reference. That's a Fox's Talk reference. I mean, Luke says, going on a fan channel and talking about the fuck-ups, going on admits that they have got it wrong and they don't think they have. It's never going to happen. On top of that as well, and we're talking about delusion here, Anil, they talk in the statement about Premier League. They want to be a Premier League.
That's another...
I mean, isn't Rule 101 of don't jump the gun, don't kind of have delusions of grandeur like we always talk about, deal with where you're at. Why are you talking about the Premier League when you're 22nd in the 22nd in the Championship, about to be in the same league as fucking Bromley?
Well, exactly. I mean, that's why, when Top did that's talk with some of the people, it was just so ridiculous, because they can't accept they got things wrong. There's no accountability, and that's what's very hard to see it changing, really, isn't it? What can I say? I mean, that's why for me I'm so negative about it. I can't believe that they wouldn't. We can accept that things go wrong because things do go wrong sometimes, right? But it's like I say, it's just the disrespect, the fact that it's Nepo baby all over again. It's like, I've never made a mistake in my life. It's not my fault. Why are you guys being so harsh on me? It's like, come on, man. What's your problem?
Yeah.
If there's one thing though that I want to be a bit more positive about is I think there's been too much hate on what was his name, Kevin or whatever is the new CEO who got promoted. Because I think if you've had an actual look at the way the financial, we'll see in a month's time as well, when I probably do another analysis show on the stream, when the new financials come out. The club is heading in the right direction financially, and apparently, according to sources, he's been the one who stepped up to try and clean up the books. So I'm open to giving him a chance. The financial last year, all things considered, when you lost that insane amount of revenue, we still managed to improve our wage to turnover ratio, even if it's still horrible. We lost so much Premier League revenue from the last accounts that it's impressive we even managed to improve that ratio. So I'm generally not, I don't want to say optimistic, but I do believe we might be heading in the right direction financially towards sustainability at the very least, even if it's on smaller budgets. And I'm open to seeing the guy get promoted if he's the one who's apparently, taken the mantle in 2023 when we got promoted to start balancing the books and cleaning up the slate, because the financials are heading in the right directions. And again, we'll see in a month's time when the last one drops from the last Premier League season. I'll have a look through it and I'll give some numbers and my opinion will be clearer. But I'm open to the guy getting more power.
Well, I was going to say as well, so there was also the announcement of Russell Jones as commercial director. From what I hear, from what I've heard, I think you might know something about this, Steve. Apparently, wasn't he the guy who was at Wolves? And he said something like, fuck the fans or something like that in a conversation?
So I dug into this a little bit, and I've been given some other opinions on him. And actually, by the sounds of it, he is somebody that you can go to and talk to properly, and actually he has an understanding of the role better than what is promoted. I don't know if what he said is true. You never know. Some people can say things or whatever, but from what I've been told by people at in and around Wolves, he's actually a decent guy to work with. So hopefully going forward, he's all right.
Can I just chime in here on the finances? This is something that obviously us fans, we're more concerned with performances out on the pitch and the league table position, which I think is correct. But that is something that I think is quite scandalous that has been allowed to get away, not just from us, but I think, I've said this before. I think the local press in Leicester do a very poor job, in my opinion, because all of that information is there on Company's House and you could dig it out. And I never see these hard-hitting questions coming out from The Athletic, BBC Radio Leicester Live about the finances and why it's such a mess and why this club is in such a pickle and why it's PSR every single season. So, this is an interesting thing of this particular appointment, right? Is he going to come clean? Is he going to explain it and do a full dossier into it? Like, why are we taking out all these huge loans on parachute money from the Premier League when it looks like we might dip down another division? Because to me, I'm not Andreas. I'm not particularly skilled in finances, but that sounds pretty fucking concerning to me that we would be doing that, right?
That is very worrying, yeah. I do agree with that. I think for me, what scares me, as you say, with local media, right? We on Blue Tinted Glasses, when I did the analysis a year ago, we reported the number of the wage to turnover ratio. It's a simple calculation I could make without having ever even graduated the class I now have in auditing. But it took 11 months for that number to reach the media, and now last month that number was all the rage all of a sudden, when that has essentially been public knowledge if you know a little bit about numbers and economics 10 months prior. So the media very clearly have been bad reporting the numbers. From what I remember as well, Leicester seem very secretive with their accounts, right? I remember only being able to dig up the past accounts because I had them downloaded on my PC. I can't find the announcement and the statements Susan Whelan made anymore. It has been taken down from the club website. That's shocking. When I look into the financials, obviously there are some clear guidelines of what needs to be reported in an account depending on what country you're from. But you obviously also have some leeway of what you want to show and how you group things in terms of how you internally account for where the money is going, and tying money to different allocations. How you allocate can completely differ and make numbers look very different. And we don't know how exactly we do that and where the money is, right? Because there's so much they don't actually need to tell us, which makes it hard for someone like me with genuine interest in the financials to really dig out what's going wrong. For example, they don't report the exact numbers of the wages of players. It's just a shared wage. I don't know if Harry Winks is on 90 grand a week. No one knows. It's reported, but we don't need to have that confirmation, and the club won't give it to us, so we can't look into it further, right? They are really playing with their cards.
Not even the Premier League or EFL knew. That's the reason why we got deducted 6 points, because he wouldn't hand in the accounts. But for example, that comment there from Adam Webb, right, says, okay, loans are not a concern, they're commonplace in football. That's great. But what I'm saying is the chief financial guy, in my opinion, should be answering those questions. Or like I say, the press and the media should be asking these sort of things. In my opinion, we just made it too easy for King Power for far too long to just get away with being utter morons.
Built up, right?
Right. And so I think that's our duty as a fan channel, to ask the tough questions. Now, fair enough, I should cut out the swearing and all of that, right? But, you brought up that clip of that Norwich thing. I think that was an excellent example. And I think, to be fair, their actual sporting director there said, this was the strategy and it hasn't gone to plan. I think, to be fair to him as well, he came prepped and he had he knew off the top of his head the number of goal involvements that he's signing, that he obviously backed a lot of money on the previous season had done, which is good. It shows he'd actually done some research coming into it.
He does his job, right? I mean, you probably get paid pretty well, so.
Hasn't turned up and tried to wing it. So, we need to see these things, because look, at the end of the day, right, for all this criticism, we'd still like, for us to turn the corner and be in the right position. But, you could even ask this, right? I mean, I saw this on Fox's Talk and I agree, which is that if we are going to go down to League One, and I think if you ask most people, if we did a poll right now, I think most people would say we are going down to League One, then taking on 6 people in middle management, bureaucratic positions at a time where you probably need to be thinking about cost cutting in a pretty severe manner does not seem like the smartest thing to do. So that's another thing that should be asked of the person who's in charge of finances. Why now? Why not maybe, or why wasn't it done in the summer? Okay, these things take time, but mid-season, in one of the most chaotic seasons in our history?
I doubt that likely wouldn't have the biggest impact on the accounts, right? We're talking a couple extra million, obviously, is still an extra expense. But when you look at where the club is spending the money right now, it's not mainly towards administrative expenses. They could obviously be cut, and they would probably do some budget cuts, but still, the wages have been the biggest issue in terms of the player wages, and they will continue to do that until the ludicrous contract like Patson Daka is on runs out at the end of this year, and in the following years as well.
Steve, I mean, I want to bring this up, and we'll just kind of end on this conversation with us all. But we've spoken before, and we kind of said a while back now, oh well, King Power or Top's gonna take us back to a lower position than where we were when they took over. I mean, I've already brought it up once, but I'll bring it up again. This is the graph that shows Leicester City league positions under King Power. The first half there in sky blue in the Vichai era, and then the right side in red, the top era. I mean, if this doesn't tell you everything you need to know, Steve, I don't know what will. You can see that all those improvements to the peak under Vichai, and you can see the little spike there with the FA Cup win and the 2 fifth place finishes. But other than that, it has all been downhill, and we are now nearly as low as we were on that graph in 2010. When people think it's kind of just bullshit when people say Top's pissing on Vichai's legacy. I mean, this graph proves it. Literally 8 years, or let's say 8 years, obviously from when he took over to when he passed away. 8 years of what Vichai built is gone completely in the following 8 years, and that is all down to Top.
Yeah, and what can we see from that? Okay, we won the FA Cup, which a lot of us would have been, incredibly happy with, and we are still happy with that. Great. But I actually think you should probably just cut it off from the middle of 21-22 and just see that, because you can see the success that still carried on from when Vichai was obviously he passed on, and then we had a couple of years where we were doing all right still, 3 years or so, because you had a plan in place. There were still players at the football club that gave a shit about the club. There was people in positions that made the right call. And then over the last, we had a promotion, but again, we cheated away to that promotion. The first from Enzo year, we had the biggest squad in the championship, money wise. Of course, we were going to get promoted that season. It makes no sense. And you get relegated with the 7th highest wage bill in Premier League history. So then go into the championship this season, because I think it was 12th or 13th highest wage bill last season in the Premier League. We now have the highest wage bill in the Championship, and we're going to get relegated to League One. So we're going to have the highest wage in League One as well, because there's still going to be players here on 75 grand a week or 60 grand or whatever. You know, I said on Sunday, you got Hamza, you've got Vestergaard, you got Decode Reed, you got Luke Thomas. All these are on high wages that most likely won't have a relegation reduction clause, because they, you know, why would they plan for that? Because they don't. So yeah, and there are people that will still defend this football club. The people that own this football club and say, well, you got to give them time. How much time do they need? Do we need to be in the conference before they say, actually, maybe it's time to sell the club? Maybe in League Two, maybe not even a football club at all. Because let's be honest, I actually think we're closer to be a Phoenix club than we are a Premier League club right now.
If we go down, man, like that, the financials, I don't know how you.
Well, we are going down, Doug. Yeah. We are going down.
And then, like, there will be still people defending ownership, and there's going to be people losing their jobs at the football club because they can't afford to have. So people that have been there for years and years and years that will no longer have a job because we get relegated to League One. These are the things that people don't think about. It's going to affect people's livelihoods. They're going to give a shit about the players. They've earned enough money to retire now if they wanted to. But there are people like dinner ladies or dinner ladies, whatever. But, you know, groundkeepers at the football pit, the training ground.
Social media managers, right? You know, pitch caretakers, receptionists at the training ground. Everyone involved, their job could be like, I don't know how many jobs you'd have to cover.
The person who wiped Harry Winks' bum after a poo.
Yeah. Or walks Yannick Vestergaard's dog, right? All gone.
But it's the more damning argument is the fact that if you look at the teams in League One, and this is no disrespect to those teams in League One, right? Notts County might be there next year. You're telling me that we're going to have an away day at Notts County? We're worried about getting 3 points. That's crazy. We're going to be playing in the fucking Johnston Payne Trophy or whatever it's called now against the under-23 sides of the Premier League and the Champions. Is out.
Our first team, Steve, will be playing Forest's under-21s. Yes,
exactly. At fucking Beaver Drive. You know, not Beaver Drive, Seagrave or what, you know. It's incredible. And I genuinely can't understand how people are still back because of what happened in the past. Open your eyes. See the decline and the awful decisions at the football club. I follow at home and away because I'm a fucking idiot. And I won't stop because I love this football club. But my God, like, open your eyes.
What would you say to David? Steve, what would you say to David?
I can't say it. I don't want to be too rude to people, Locks, in all honesty. But yeah,
the sigh was enough. The sigh was enough.
People saying, "Oh, be careful what you wish for." Can it be any worse than this right now? Because if Vichai had died and we sold the football club right after we won the FA Cup, and when this is a new owner that's coming and seen this decline, there would be nobody supporting it. It's because he's won the Premier League, his dad won the Premier League, and he set us up for winning the FA Cup with Brendan Rodgers coming. Okay, that was top decision to bring Brendan Rodgers and stuff, but.
Well, actually, I sorry, just to interrupt. I actually heard Vichai was seeking out Brendan before he died. Yeah.
Well, we knew that Club Well was going to be sacked that night after the West Ham game, but unfortunately, Vichai passed that evening, which was horrific to see. But the fact that people can't see and separate the father and the son in this situation blows my mind because it feels like an entirely new ownership, and they have made several decisions in a row that has pissed off people, that have been the wrong choice for the football club, that have put people's jobs in jeopardy and the football club in jeopardy, and yet you're still willing to back them. And that's fine. That's your opinion. Like, whatever. But honestly,
it's the lack of action as well. I think that annoys me as well. Right? This change in structure would have been way more welcomed when we first got down from the Premier League 2.5 years ago now.
Yeah,
if that happened then, when they made the internal review and realized they didn't have a clue and they surround themselves by competence. Open arms. Like, it should not be happening now. It should have been 2 years ago. The sacking of Rodgers should have happened right after the World Cup when we had the disastrous January window we found out in hindsight. But the results after we started tumbling down, it should not have been in April when we lost to Crystal Palace 2-1. Like, these decisions needed to have been taken quicker, more proactively, and the strategy needed to have been there, right? It's the same with Cifuentes. We delay on sacking him for months, and then we finally don't do anything for a month more. Like, everything is moving at a snail's pace, and decisions that should have been made years ago are now finally being made, and it just starts to feel like too little too late. Again, I'll give time to James Macaron and the new people in charge, because it's very clear King Power are not selling, and I'm hopeful the new people can provide the direction the club needs, and reassemble the pieces of Leicester City Football Club. but it just feels too late. I'm not as excited as I would have been 2 years ago when we had Enzo and he wanted change in the boardroom. And again, it's just always lack of action or way too little too late.
Craig.
Daz saying there, like, oh, you know, he needed help and support. That's on him then. We can't make that decision. If he says that he can't handle it, appoint somebody that can handle it. Simple as that.
And Neil, you know, final thing, mate. Craig said here, grass maybe not any greener on the other side. It's the team along with managers and the board. It's not just one thing, but it's the board that employ the managers and the players, right? It's the buck stops at the top, literally, and this has gone on for years now, and there's no sign of improvements.
Yeah, what's happening with us? It's funny, you're seeing this actually happen at Tottenham Hotspur as well, right? A club in the Premier League. The culture at these clubs is so stinking that it affects everything throughout the club. And that's why you're getting these things. That's why whenever we bring in players, they have this sort of entitlement. I mean, there's so many things that I can just think of that are just so tone deaf. Like, who was it? Was Abby, you, Locks, or Steve posted this video of Jordan Ayew after full time against Norwich, just trudges around and goes straight down the tunnel. This is the guy that's wearing the number 9 shirt. Do you think the previous number 9 who wore that shirt would have done the same thing, even in situations as difficult as that? No, he didn't, right? So a small thing like that, anyone who had even one brain cell would be like, hang on a minute, you sure you want to give the number 9 shirt, one of the most iconic numbers in this club history, to Jordan Ayew? Might it not be a smart decision, for example, to wait one season, right? Because Jordan Ayew is not even going to be here the season after that before we give it to someone, right? Free PR, there you go, from blue tinted glasses to you, King Power FC, right? There are many things that could be done. So, you know, the culture of the club absolutely stinks, right? But as Steve says, I mean, you know, I hate to say it, Steve, but has it infected the fans as well? Because I've got to be honest with you, you've got the banner there behind you. And when we were at that protest, I'll be honest with you, I actually found that more depressing even than the situation at the club, because it's almost like we've been Stockholm syndromed. And it's like we're accepting that being this shit, both on and off the pitch, is also acceptable because once upon a time we were also in this position.
Yeah, do you know what I find
to me
crazy?
Is the worst possible, yeah.
Like, so it was mentioned on Big Strong Leicester Boys yesterday about Union and FS, right? And how, like, look, they're not very well liked amongst the fan base, right? But if these people that are saying back the lads, if Union and FS don't turn up and the people that did the protest didn't turn up and sing during the game, it would be silent in that football ground. Because as much as they're saying back the lads, where are you? Why aren't you backing the lads? Why aren't you singing for 90 minutes? Like, you know, we're all to blame for this because we've allowed it to go on for too long. It's as simple as that.
David, you realise that they literally decided 1 day before the staff's payday that they were going to change the payday date before Christmas, right? You talk about the Top doesn't treat the club like a business. He only treats it with his heart. Well, does that sound... That sounds pretty heartless to me, mate. The payday changing 24 hours before they were about to get paid. This is bullshit. This is bullshit, David. I would agree, Vichai. Vichai had, more care for everybody in the community than Top does. The culture's changed, and yeah, the be careful what you wish for argument in this kind of debate for me is the dumbest of them all. It's brain dead, like lacking critical thinking. Are you unaware of kind of where we were and what we've fallen to over the last 4 years? I just find it crazy. I find it absolutely crazy. And it's just more blind faith loyalty, to be honest. Just like when they had the blind faith in Brendan Rodgers and the credit in the bank and they didn't sack him for a long time. That's exactly what some fans now are doing with King Power. Because of what his father gave us, they just can't think of any possibility in which he's not here. And I just find it mental. But yeah, anyway, we're going to end it there. It's interesting. Obviously, yeah, another emergency stream today. We'll have Fox's Den tomorrow to talk about something. I'm not sure quite yet. Not sure what yet. But we will be back at 7 p.m. tomorrow evening. And then we've got another weekend of football to look forward to where Leicester City play Ipswich. I'm just going to bring it up here, actually, Anil. There we go.
I can't wait. Oh, wait, I can wait, yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
it's
God.
It's going to be awful. But cheers to Anil, cheers to Steve, cheers to Doc. We will be back, like I said, tomorrow night. Enjoy the rest of your, is it Wednesday or Tuesday? It's Tuesday today. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we'll see you soon. Bye. No more 200 grand, but our new sponsors, The Beautiful Frame, have smashed it with this Jamie Vardy piece. It's unreal. They're a local Leicester business as well, which makes it even better. And not just City, they do prints for other clubs as well. So it's perfect if you are stuck for a birthday or Christmas present for one of your friends or family. Now, the best bit, they have sorted BTG viewers out with a discount. Just use BTG12 at checkout for money off. BTG12. Grab yours now at thebeautifulframe.com. The link is down below.